Now, I would like to welcome our teacher, Dorothy Siminovitch. Dorothy Siminovitch, Ph.D. MCC, is founder and president of Gestalt Coaching Works, LLC. She is an international coach, consultant, speaker, and author. Dorothy is the founder and co-owner of Gestalt Coaching Program in Istanbul, an ACTP coach training program where she serves as director of training and as faculty. She is co-founder of Gestalt Center for Coaching, which delivers ICF-accredited coach training, workshops, and extended programs internationally. Welcome, Dorothy.
I want to just say bienvenue, welkomen, and hoş geldin. All the different languages here, I would really like to welcome. You know, I think it's the wonderful thing today that the good news is that Zoom allows us to reach, whether it's Normandy, France, Munich, Istanbul, Toronto. That's the amazing news. It's so fantastic that you brought in uncertainty, because one of the things that in our research with leaders, that a competency that we're finding that's important for leaders and also outstanding coaches is the ability to tolerate uncertainty. Imagine, we've been in a world in a different paradigm that we had to know what was going on. That was called order and learning, okay? And now we're moving to a world that we actually need to understand how to tolerate uncertainty, because what can we say with absolute certainty about our future? There will be more uncertainty, which if you think about it is very paradoxical. So I want to welcome that you've said that, and also how our thinking has to change in order for us to be creative, not just to sell a painting, that was very brilliant, but to tolerate ourselves and others. Isn't that interesting? To give you a little kind of interesting, just a little teaching point for the moment. You know, Gestalt is, for one thing, not a formula, but it's actually an experience. And the question is, how do you dance with the experience in the moment? Gestalt thinking is very present-based. And look what we did. We invited everyone to say something, either in themselves or between us. And there's no way of knowing what each of us said. But one of the things about that is, did we generate more energy in between the start of our speaking till this moment? I'm just wondering, just hands up. More energy? More interest? More surprises? So Gestalt is a German word. So it started with the German word. And one of the funny things about Gestalt is we always explain it and people don't really understand it because it remains aber ja German, Deutsches. Okay, so the word Gestalt really means, what is your picture? What is your picture? And knowing there's many different parts. So there's all these definitions, but basically I'm going to narrow it and skinny it down. What Gestalt really means is, what is the picture you're paying attention to? So even now, we invited you to check in. Basically, I love check-ins. Check-ins are, it's a measure of respect. It's a measure of beginning. And it's a measure of taking the temperature of where we are now. And the little check-in that we did is exactly what Matthias said, many different answers. And that's an example of, we call it a word, a very special word, many different figures. I'm going to explain that in a minute, but no answer was wrong. Did you notice that? You couldn't say that Matthias's question, although it was very interesting, the invisible, and then I went away and he was, you couldn't say that was wrong, Or you couldn't say Lawrence's curiosity. Curiosity is fantastic. And you like my glasses. What could be wrong with that, right? But it was a different figure. Or Susanna's interest in limiting beliefs. Actually, it was also very interesting to Evelyn. So there were two people who shared that figure. Or Colin, who was just very interested in the figure of uncertainty, which is a huge figure in today's world. I don't know a leader who in coaching who doesn't say, I'd like to know how to manage my fear around uncertainty. It's a huge figure. And that's the interesting thing about the power of Gestalt, to embrace the here and now. And what people are paying attention to is called their figure. And as simple as that is, it's huge. So like the phone ringing now is another figure. And we're going to ignore that figure. But even as I say, of course, even as I say, ignore the figure, how many figures do we have that are hard to ignore? The phone ringing for some people is very difficult. Anybody have example of a figure that's hard to ignore? Anyone have an example? What's hard to ignore?
Hunger.
Hunger, very hard. Yes, very, very hard. Anything else?
You know, a certain song, sometimes you suddenly came an old song into your mind, and then you're singing it and singing it and singing it and singing it and just cannot get rid of it.
Yes, yes. You know, it could be very nice, but it could be like, you know, and sometimes you have to really, I have Lexa, so I can put it on for an hour until I'm satisfied. How many people are bothered by time? Yes, it's a huge figure in our life. Well, I could tell you this person who's just calling, if I'm a minute late, it's very bad. Okay, as an example, anyone know that feeling? You know, my husband says, you know, oh, I'm on time. She says, if you're on time, you're late. You have to be a minute early. So think about it. It's actually a rationalization for type A workers. So time is a very, very big figure.
Okay.
And at the same time, some people actually say, we have plenty of time. It's a relative concept. So what's our construction of time? I want to put it out there, but you know, it's very interesting. I have, and this is an example. And so I'm going to just give you an example. So, right, okay. If you pay attention to my hand, can you just pay attention to my hand?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get out of the way. Let me see. Yeah. All right. You see my hand?
Yes.
But can you take your attention behind my hand to that blue picture? And focus on the picture. What happens to my hand?
Blurred.
What happens? It becomes blurred. Bring your attention now to my hand. What happens to the picture?
Blurred. Yeah.
Marvelous. So I'm going to just tell you, when you put your attention on my hand, that is your figure. And the picture is your background. It is background. But when you put your attention on the picture, that is your figure, and my hand becomes your background. What has changed? Only your attention. And so this is where, and this is actually this is from Gestalten psychology from only 100 years ago, by the way. But the idea is we don't see the world the way it is. We see it how we construct it. I'm going to focus on the picture. I'm going to focus on the hand. What I decide to focus on is my figure. And when I direct it, it's called figure ground formation. And very often, So I'm going to give an example of like what Susanna just said. How many people are focused on, I don't have enough time? Exactly. I don't have enough time. I'm managing time. I'm managing time. I'm managing time. What is the figure of challenge? What is the figure of challenge?
Time.
All right. So I'm going to hold that for a moment. Very provocative. Okay. Because is it time or is it something else? Okay. What's another figure that people, you know, that some of your clients really come in and say, this is what I'm working with? That's a figure. What's a challenging figure that you would like to know how to work with? One of them is time. I think Matthias, you said something about what's not visible. So let me just hold this because it's a very, when the figure is challenging, what do we do? Okay. And so I'm going to hold this and I'm just going to give you a little visual. And because I see, you know, Ishel worked so hard to bring us together. And I know Ishel is counting the moments because she loves this community so much. And I know Elena too. So let me just give you a little visual that I love very, very much for you to think about. Okay. And by the way, I'm still laughing, Min, at the idea of this projection about my presence, because this is also such a very big challenge. How do we use our knowledge to engage each other? So if we don't finish today, it's not the end of the world. It's the beginning. So I would like to invite you to look at something with me. May I? Can I? Is it okay? I'm going to go. All right. And this is actually, this picture that I love very much. And if you got the book, you will, it's in the book, but this is a very interesting question of what is the issue that I want to attend to around, and I think the idea of getting what I want, what I need, or what's missing, or coaching someone, what they want, what is their figure? Because a figure, it's endless, but very often someone comes to us and they say, I want something, but they actually really, it's something else. And so one of the things we always want to know, I love this from one of my colleagues from a long time ago, is what do I want that I want to get? And if I get what I want, I feel very powerful. Okay. I feel, and when you say powerful, it's not just power, it's I feel good in my skin. When anyone gets what they want, just let's hear one or two words. How do you feel when you arrive at what you want? How do you feel?
Excited and also satisfied, kind of.
Exactly. Excited and satisfied. You know, before we came here, for some reason, I came early, like 20 minutes early. I just said to myself, maybe I should come early. And we had a sound problem. And I said to myself, oh my God, thank God I came early, because if we had a sound problem, it kills everybody. So I feel fantastic that we actually managed it. So to get what I want, and I'm speaking for every single one of you, wherever you are in the world, that is actually important. Around what you want to eat, around what you want to do, around what you want want your people to do, around what you think you want to do. But then there's something very, very, very interesting, and that is this. I also want to be sure that I don't get what I don't want. And what is that? When I don't get what I don't want, why is that so positive? Anyone? Just take a sentence. Why is that so positive?
It's about protection.
Say again?
About protection. You
Yes,
are able to protect yourself from getting what you don't want.
Okay, I love that very much. I want to say yes. I want to build on that. So for example, I think very often I do a lot of work on supporting people to be the presence they want to be. And our dear Min, from the very moment that we began, she said, wait a minute, you seem so energetic. You seem so alive. I didn't know I could be, right? And for me, what I'm always paying attention to is to make sure that I don't do what I don't want. I want to be looking, do I need to say no to things? so I can say yes to things. Do you know people who can't say no? Yeah, I know brilliant people who can't say no. I know people that say, I don't know what it is. I can't say no to my friends that want to come for the weekend, or, you know, my people at work. And and so what happens is, if you don't protect yourself by saying no, then you can't say yes to what you really want. So the yes and the no are very important dimensions of identity, and very important working with others, and very important processes. And a lot of people cannot say yes and cannot say no, and are not even aware of that. And again, we're talking about even marvelous people who are smart. And when marvelous people can't say no, how do they feel? Terrible. But then there's something very interesting, and it came in here very often. People are not clear that what they want, I don't get. And if I don't get what, if I don't get what I want, I feel like I'm losing. And this is this area, Evelyn, Susanna, that you picked up, is what are the limiting beliefs that stop us even from trying to get what we want? And by the way, we can tell that, I'm just going to put the energy as resignation. People very often, before they even started, they even stopped. Because if your belief is, I cannot even figure out how to get what I want, I've resigned. But then there's another. So this is a place of feeling like a loser. And this is the place, if I get what I don't want, I feel like a victim. And if I feel like a victim, what's the feeling I get? I could either be in resignation or I could be in resentment. Resentment is when I'm angry at others because I'm getting something that I didn't want, that I want to say no to. Okay? And even as I say that, what's very interesting is sometimes we're with a client, or we're even in a situation in ourselves, and we're not sure of why am I not feeling more satisfied because I'm not getting something I wanted, or why am I being irritated if I have to get what I didn't want? You know, someone's just joining us. Even before I move, anyone have any comments about what I just took us through? Questions, comments, awarenesses?
What do you mean by agency?
Agency is, thank you. Who's asking that question?
Sorry, Lawrence.
Lawrence, wonderful. And by the way, I want to say this to you, Lawrence. I love that you said, I don't know, I just came here because I'm curious. Curiosity is the most inviting energy you bring in your presence. I'm curious. Can we be curious without judgment? I'm just curious. That is the most welcoming thing. Agency is to be the agent of yourself, the agent of this moment. To be in, you know, when Min says to me, I don't know, you seem so confident, I thought to myself, what a marvelous projection. Min, I want to thank you. But the truth is, I was feeling very good. And I'll tell you what was making me feel very, very good. We had a sound problem. And the whole thing was about to collapse. And we figured something out that allowed us to come together. And that makes me feel very good. To be an agent is to use yourself, use your presence in the moment and arrive. Use it, power, it's not power like I'm going to woo you. It's power for the sake of accomplishing your mission, your dream, your raison d'être. And of course, the interesting thing is sometimes we say to people, are you really feeling good in your skin? What does that mean? They say, okay, well, pay attention. Are you getting what you want? And so often people will say, yeah, you know, I have money, I have a nice job, but I'm feeling not satisfied, which is crazy because you say, okay, well, what is that? If you were more satisfied, what would that be? And that becomes the work. And it's not that they're not happy with life, that they're not successful. It's that the dream of life continues to want. How do we engage? And this is where resistance is so powerful, because resistance is a force that we learn to manage our lives. But sometimes, so for example, very often people say, no, I'm not going to do this. And what happens is, you know, as we get older, we change. And sometimes the things that we say no to, we find that we couldn't say yes to the things that we want. So we feel like a loser. And Min, would it be okay if I just make up a story with what you told me? I'm going to give an example.
Totally.
Okay, Min, go. I love that. So Min says to me, you know, you're so bubbly. And I think, yep, that's very interesting. By the way, people think that about me, but that's okay. Compared to what? It's always the question. But instantly when I heard that, I said, oh, so Min has said no to the idea of giving herself more permission for expression. I mean, I could be wrong, but am I a little bit close?
Do you want me to say that that's spot on?
Marvelous, marvelous. And I say this with tremendous compassion, because my projection is, for whatever reasons, your family of origin, your culture, whatever, it served you. The question is that now going to continue to serve you the way that you want to show up in your agency of Min? Make sense? And that's the work. To understand, you know, there's a wonderful, wonderful poem that I have from American poet. Unfortunately, she passed away. She was older, but I loved her, Mary Oliver. Very, very wonderful poet. She had a wonderful sentence, one line. She'd say, are you breathing just a little and calling that a life? Are you breathing just a little and calling that a life? Because sometimes the things that we say no to, if we don't redo our habit, we get so used to saying no that we don't understand, you know, I need to undo that and change so I don't feel that I'm losing. Very often now in the workplace, you know, we're coaching people to be more authentic, be more vulnerable. I get crazy from that, because you see people saying, oh my God, I can't be vulnerable. I don't know, because they learn to keep their emotions to themselves. And honestly, we need to really help people understand, what would it be for you? Authentic means to be real. Vulnerable means to share more. What don't you share that would allow people to know you more? You don't have to tell them the most intimate things, but what can you share? And this is where working with resistance, changing a pattern of resistance, helps people not be a victim or a loser and stay in agency. And it's so simple and so big, because what do we need to do? We need to provide the space that allows people to present themselves. We need to say, you know, one of the things, again, you know, and I love this whole thing that we all know a little bit about ourselves. Whatever we say and react to reveals something about us. And we in Gestalt coaching, we use ourselves. We are the instrument. Every single one of you here are the instrument. Everything you notice is a figure. What's the figure you're going to be curious about that will invite the other person to join you, that will allow the work to happen? Make sense? So I can say this to you because this is what I have decided has been just the brilliance of the Gestalt approach. Lately, I'm calling it awareness intelligence, to use our awareness to allow us to get curious. So Lawrence, I think you asked the spot on question, to get curious. And with permission to invite an inquiry that allows us to invite the other person to do the work. we are the instrument. That's the first thing I want to say. We are the instrument. And we have to use ourselves first to create, is there enough safety for me to even ask? So very often I like to say to people, remember to ask for permission. You can still ask a very deep question, make a huge observation, but remember always to ask for permission, because coaching is mutual versus therapy is, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, maybe. That's also, they came to you, they're expecting, but coaching is mutuality. So always ask for permission. And in really, you know, may I give you maybe an awareness and tell me if it's a little bit too deep, so you can gauge it together. Okay. And sometimes you see, oh my God, that's the issue. They're not giving themselves permission, or they're not allowing themselves to take a breath and saying how it feels, or they're not, you know, they're not recognizing the pattern. You turn your observation of an explanation and turn it into a hypothesis. I like to say, are you aware that you're doing this? How does it feel? I name the observation and turn it into a question for them to reflect on. And it does take practice, because we're used to being helpful. And to be helpful, it was like, here, let me tell you what you need to know. And in coaching, the work is, here, please consider this and do your own scanning, because we think change in coaching happens from the inside out, not the outside in. So how can we get your attention? How could we make an observation? How could we make a question? How could we make a metaphor? Sometimes I'll be with a person and they keep saying, I don't know. And I'll come up with a metaphor. You know, it feels like right now, I'm not clear about the weather. Is that familiar for you? Yes, I'm always like that. I'm in a fog. And if you have to figure out where to go in a fog, what do you use? Well, and then they find something small. And our work is to build on the small, because in the small is their answer. This is that invisible place that Matthias is talking about. Something really huge is hiding in that small. And awareness is atomic. We can build on it. When we don't say something, sometimes I've gone home, and to everybody here, did you ever come back home and you say, I should have said that? Anyone say that to yourselves? Anyone know that feeling?
Many times.
I saw that, I should have. That's the place for you to say to yourself, what have I learned? What have I learned? What have I learned? And allow the neurochemistry of your brain to start recognizing faster. This is where the agility people say, fail fast and learn faster. What did you not say that you wish you could have said? And learn from that. We say no failure, no learning. No emotion, no learning. Are you willing to be a little bit uncomfortable? Sometimes I say, I'm not sure what I'm noticing. What am I noticing? What is it that you're feeling? I'll throw it to them. Let them tell. I don't know what it is. You know, the interesting thing, last piece I'm going to say, I'm just aware, and you knew this was going to happen, I think, time runs away. But if we leave feeling, oh, we just started, then we really actually will come back again, I hope. But the interesting thing is, we're living in a world today where, and again, I could say, how much education do you have? How much do you know? How much certification do you have? All of that is important. But in today's very fast-moving world, how we show up and stay present and engage other people turns out to be the critical variable for learning, for change, for impact. You can have a doctorate, an MCC, everything, but if you show up and you don't really connect with the client, then it's actually not going to work for the client. So how do we show up to generate interest? How do we show up so that we get interest, engagement, and here's the important thing, non-judgmental. So if mindfulness is to be aware, present, non-judgmental, on purpose. Gestalt coaching is to be present in an aware way without judgment and available to the figure that needs a response. The figure could be my figure. The figure could be your figure. The figure could be our figure. What is the figure that we need to respond to? With that, I'm going to give you my deepest gratitude that we've met. And I want to invite you to, I don't know, come back. You know, I really do invite you either through the book or through a workshop on presence. I'm going to be giving a talk for ICF Global, but I invite you, as we say in Istanbul, Görüşürüz, may we see each other again.
Thank you very much, Dorothy. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom at the Wisdom Cafe. Thank you so much. I know you have to go to your webinar, which you are 2 minutes late.
I know.
Your phone calls will be starting running.
I know.
Thank you very much, Dorothy.
Until the next time we meet, you know, you are the instrument that the world needs. Take care of your awareness and then ask yourself how to be in your agency, how to say no so that your yes matters.
Take care.
Until next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone, Elena had just shared the book of Dorothy. She had shared some of the wisdom you saw if you had joined before, that you had seen her graphic, which was also included in her book, A Gestalt Coaching Primer. You can learn more about this book by buying the book. Of course, you can read about it. That's how actually I was inspired to invite Dorothy for this conversation today, because she had described so brilliantly the Gestalt coaching approach, and I believe the presence of coaching. She had given so many details into our coaching work and our coaching presence, and how we can invite clients to discover more about themselves by using the instrument of our presence. And she does it in such a flowing and a simple way, such a huge wisdom in a very understandable way. So I really, from my whole heart, invite you to explore the book as well.